In the process of making my last video, I rewatched the entirety of Hyouka. And being that Hyouka is one of my favorite anime of all time and relegated Hunter x Hunter out of my top 3, I don't need a second invitation to watch it again. And there were a lot of interesting things that you would only notice during a rewatch, like the really cheeky foreshadowing or every suspicious moment from the culprits. But my favorite part of the rewatch was something I barely remembered from my first watch. It was the conversations between Oreki and Fukube. They're a nice change of pace from the regularly scheduled mystery format, and are a good introspective look into Oreki's mindset as his character develops. But what interested me was not Oreki, it was Fukube. Fukube is an eccentric and energetic guy living a carefree high school life. He keeps the vibe lighthearted and doesn't take anything too seriously. He knows a lot of stuff but isn't particularly invested in any one thing. Overall, he's just a chill guy. Or at least, that's how we're supposed to see him. In my last video, if you didn't watch my last video, don't worry. Nobody did. But I mentioned that every single character is consistent and acts in the way that makes the most sense. But if we look at Fukube from that perspective, there are two major inconsistencies. The first one being in those conversations. While his demeanor is mostly the same, in those conversations he challenges Oreki on his beliefs in contrast to his actions, in a way that's more direct and confrontational than usual. Or when Oreki asks him questions, he shows a deep level of self-awareness and ability to accurately assess the situation. Especially because this is a mystery anime, observational skills of that level are very useful. It would make sense for him to use those skills in many different situations, but outside those conversations, he never does. And the second inconsistency is the phrase a database. Database? Fuck it, I'm saying database. A database cannot draw conclusions. It's not that there are any inconsistencies with this character, nor is it an objectively untrue statement, but I think it simply goes against human nature. Think about it. If you have a problem that you want to solve, and a lot of information surrounding that problem, wouldn't it be only natural to at least try to connect the dots? Especially because he finds the mysteries interesting, the fact that he makes no attempt to solve them is strange. But these inconsistencies are not mistakes. They can't be. I'm not convinced that one of the four main characters is less consistent than the one guy from the quiz club with 2 minutes and 25 seconds of screen time. There has to be some kind of explanation, and the only explanation that makes sense is that it's all intentional. He's actively avoiding any and all major involvement in the solution of the mysteries. Despite having the means, he's choosing not to participate. It's not like he doesn't want to help at all. In fact, he often provides information that's integral to solving the case, but he makes it a point to not be the one to use that information. And upon rewatch, it's pretty obvious to see every single way he cleverly escapes too much involvement. The laid-back, hedonistic version of Fukube is some kind of mask. But this leaves us with two main questions. Who is the real Fukube, and why put on this act in the first place? Maintaining a mask like this is not easy. This is a lot of effort just to be nonchalant. There has to be some kind of reason, and that reason is connected to a core aspect of his character. Fukube Satoshi has no talents. I'm sure you're familiar with the phrase, jack of all trades, master of none. The full saying includes, but oftentimes better than a master of one. The funny thing about the second part is that it's just not f***ing true. I was talking to one of my friends who is pretty good at a lot of things, and he said, I'm the best violinist studying architecture, and I'm the best architect in the orchestra. Which is pretty cool, but also pretty pointless. You'd only ever need one at a time. I'd rather have a really talented architect or a really talented violinist, instead of someone that's kinda good at both. Masterful work is almost always more valuable. Being a jack of all trades means that with your skills combined, you're better than most people. But being a master of none means that in any specific category, you can never be the best. Having no weaknesses is not the same as having many strengths. The inability to master anything is essentially talentlessness. And so, being a jack of all trades is a minor advantage, while being a master of none is a major disadvantage. And Fukube is one such jack of all trades. He has tried many things in hopes that he would find something that he's good at, just to come to the realization that there's nothing in particular that he's talented at. Many people see his database as a talent, but I see it as a graveyard. It's all that remains of all the things he's tried and failed at. And no matter how useful a database is, it's no substitute for aptitude. Oh shit, that was a bar. In the Jumonji case, he used all the information he had access to and tried every single strategy he could come up with. But in the face of real talent, he didn't even come close. And so, what do you do when you're faced with the reality that your best is never good enough? The most logical answer, and the answer that Fukube chose, was to give up. Discard everything. He doesn't have the talent to become the best, nor does he have the disposition to fully commit himself to anything. On top of that, he doesn't like the person he becomes when he gets too invested in something. So the answer is simple: never commit. Don't get too involved in anything. And without the stress of chasing something he could never achieve anyway, he actually started having fun. The version of Fukube that we see definitely isn't 100% honest, but he also isn't fake per se. He's trying to embrace a lifestyle that he thinks is more conducive to his talentlessness, and reject the parts of himself that were causing him to suffer. It's his reaction to the despair of being talentless. Obviously, this is an extreme reaction, and he can't actually live like this forever. But to be fair, there is no concrete solution to his problem. Instead of giving up, what is he supposed to do? Continue looking for a talent that doesn't exist, or invest a lot of time into something knowing he could never actually achieve anything? Those options seem equally unreasonable. The truth is, the problem eventually goes away. You either settle into some kind of role or find a way for your talentlessness to stop robbing you of your peace. But I think it's an interesting problem nonetheless. Although it's fleeting, Fukube represents something very important: what it's like to be well and truly talentless. And that is the curious case of Fukube Satoshi, the master of none. Pretty good. 4 out of 10. If you couldn't tell already, this is actually something that I struggled with as well, which is why I resonate so deeply with the character. It's actually kinda creepy how well he represents the concept, down to the way his self-esteem issues manifest. But that got me thinking. The way I see it, the only way you'd be able to write this character well is to have experience with the feeling of talentlessness. But to write any character this well, you'd have to be talented. So, to write the character of Fukube Satoshi, you'd need to be both talentless and talented simultaneously. This is what I call the Satoshi paradox. There's actually a very easy solution, but explaining it would take too long, so you're gonna have to figure it out by yourself.